fish. Got one. Just as I touched the bottom, just barely felt that bite. So today I thought I'd go over some tips on increasing your Columbia River jigging success for walleye. And the first one is definitely equipment. I know a lot of good guys who struggle out here with these fish, and the main thing is they're just running too heavy a gear, too heavy a line. You really need to downsize it. Light gear, light line will put more fish in the boat. So I've got 10-pound braid on, 6-pound leader, and that helps to increase the sensitivity of that, and also reduces blowback on your jigs when you're jigging. That's the first one in the boat. And one of the reasons a lot of folks struggle with Columbia River walleye or jigging for walleye in general is not so much because these fish aren't aggressive. They can be very aggressive, but their bites are very subtle. And so, you know, having that thin braid, having that thin line helps a lot. But another thing that's going to help is having a high modulus graphite rod. So you can have 1-piece or 2-piece rods, that's fine. I've not noticed much different in terms of sensitivity, but you definitely want that fast action graphite that's going to transmit that signal to the rod. And I like to have rods where some part of the rod blink is exposed and my fingers touching it, so I can just feel that subtle tap. And it almost feels like your jig colliding with a rock or something. So if you feel anything, set the hook, because hook sets are free and you don't want to miss those opportunities. I don't know how many times I'll be going along and I'm like, man, I think that was a fish, and I pull it up and my worm's all stripped, all toothed up, and it's just because I didn't set the hook. I missed that fish. Going up a slope here. So every couple jigs I'm going to reel down just so I can have plenty of room for a hook set if I do get bit. The wind's really pushing the boat around. And boat control is just as important as your gear. Keeping that line as vertical as possible. Oh, I missed a bite right there. Dang it. That sucks. There we go. Got one. It's so important to be in tight contact with the bottom. If you're not on the bottom, you're not fishing for walleye. A lot of people told me, why don't I try drop shotting here? And I have. And even just pulling it like 6 inches off the bottom, they will not come up for that bait. It has got to be hard to the bottom. If you're not making contact, you're not going to catch it. So this is another key, at least in my experience, in targeting walleye. I've just never, ever been able to have great success targeting suspended fish. I do on occasion mark them, but 99.9% of the time it's catching fish that are holding really hard to the bottom. Those are the biters. So you gotta have contact, and that means fishing appropriately heavy gear. I see a lot of guys coming out here and they just don't have a heavy enough jig or a heavy enough lure to make hard contact with the bottom, or at least detect that they're on the bottom. And because of it, it costs them a lot of fish. It costs you a lot of fishing time too, because the lighter your jig is, the longer it takes to get down to the bottom. And sometimes you might be fishing at 40 to 100 feet, and you need to get down there to the bottom as quick as possible, especially when on these drifts, so that you can make contact with the fish, get prepped, get your line all vertical oriented, and get ready to set the hook when you get bit. Oh, I missed him. Dang it. That sucks. He probably stripped me. There he is. He came back for it. Oh, he's off. Must not have got a good hook set on him. That's a bummer. Yeah, he stripped me. He gave me a second chance and I blew it. This wind is making it a pain to fish. I can't take my hand off the rudder, so I have to jig with the hand I don't want to jig with. I'm basically having to paddle into the wind to keep that vertical. is a pain. Just felt a bite there. Missed it though. Just a tap. There he is. Got him. God, that was a tiny tap. Feels heavy. I just keep steady pressure on them. That's the best way to do that. Don't pump and reel. Bring them straight up. It feels heavy. It's a nice one. That's a nice fish. There we go. Heck yeah. Take that. There you go. That's a beauty. Take that. It's a great eater size. I actually got 2 bites there, and then he came back around for it. Alright, well, he's bleeding out. Since we're 4 fish in, which is halfway to my limit, I'm going to switch up my other rod to a jigging spoon and just try that a little bit, see if a little bit of metal going through there. The bite's not been super hot coming through the last couple times, so let's just see if sometimes presenting something different can make a big difference in terms of your catch rate. And some days they're only hitting bait, so I won't waste a lot of time doing this, but I want to try. Alright, time to go back to worm. Just not getting anything else to work. It is just a worm baby. I went ahead and rebaited because sometimes after like 4 or 5 drifts, it seems like you can get, your bait can get a little soft, and sometimes I think they really like that fresher bait. So, ooh, that was a bite. Dang it, I missed it. That sucks. Another bite. Well, the fresh bait worked. Just not getting hookups. Well, at least those guys that were crowding my drift are gone. I'll never understand that. Literally the 2 boats on the entire river. I was the first one on this drift, and I don't know in the drift, but man, I would not drop right in on top of somebody like that. It's just not my style. These bite windows with walleye, you have to exploit them well. Like they'll start feeding, and then they'll feed for an hour or 2, then they'll shut down for an hour or 2, then they'll come back on for an hour or 2. It just takes time. Sometimes you have to grind it out a little bit. Sometimes they bite all day, and sometimes they won't bite at all. But generally, there are a few bite windows throughout the day. Nope, that was not a bite. I thought it was a bite, but it wasn't. There he is. Thought I had a bite, and I dropped it back down, and then I did have a bite, so I guess I must have just detected that light bite. I knew I was going to get one on this drift. That was a really weird bite. Just felt the tiniest bit of pressure. I pulled on it, nothing, dropped it straight back down, then went to lift up again, and he was there. That's a nice fish too. There we go. I'm gonna keep working away on these fish. I'll put links to all the gear that I used today. But you know, the main thing is a lot of times I just really feel like there's a lot of anglers that are struggling with walleye, and it has nothing to do with their skill set. It just has to do with their gear and presentation more than anything. I think you can catch them on a lot of different lures. This is nothing fancy. This is just a basic jig head. I like the VMC Moon Eye jigs just because the hook has a narrower gauge, and so it's easier to drive that hook deeper. And it has a really good worm keeper too. Alright, I'll put links to everything I used today, and I'll see you guys next time. Just remember, fish smarter, not harder. Bye guys.